Ambassador Jack Miller stood at the viewport of the USS Horizon, watching the massive structure of the Galactic Council headquarters grow larger as they approached. The space station was a marvel of engineering, a spinning wheel of silver and blue light that housed representatives from 27 alien species. After decades of searching the stars for other life, humanity had finally made contact 6 months ago. Today would mark their 5th negotiation session, and Miller's patience was wearing thin. Impressive view, isn't it? Dr. Lisa Wright joined him at the window. Her expertise in xenobiology had made her invaluable to the human delegation. Beautiful trap, Miller replied. I'm starting to think we're mice being invited into a snake pit. Captain Alan Murphy approached from behind them. We're cleared for docking in 10 minutes, Ambassador. The council representatives will meet you in Chamber 4. Miller nodded and straightened his uniform. He had been a military strategist before, becoming a diplomat, and those instincts were screaming warnings at him now. 4 previous meetings had yielded nothing but veiled insults and impossible demands. Let's hope today is different, he said, though he didn't believe it would be. The docking procedure went smoothly, and soon the human delegation walked through the gleaming hallways of the station. Aliens of various shapes and sizes moved about their business. Some had blue skin, others green scales. One species resembled walking trees, while another looked like giant insects. Many stopped to stare at the humans with expressions that Miller had learned to read as contempt or amusement. Chamber 4 was a circular room with a round table. The council members were already seated when the humans arrived. Counselor Zix Tar, a tall being with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors with his emotions, served as the main speaker. The council welcomes the Earth delegation, Zix Tar said, his skin flashing a deep purple that Miller had come to associate with fake politeness. We trust you have considered our generous offer of membership. Miller took his seat and placed his data tablet on the table. Thank you, Counselor. We have reviewed your terms and have some concerns we'd like to address. A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through the alien delegates. One of them, a bulky creature with thick gray hide, spoke in a rumbling voice. Concerns? Your species barely mastered space travel. You should be grateful for any terms. Dr. Wright leaned forward. With respect, our technological development has been rapid. In the past century alone— Yes, interrupted Zixtar. Very impressive, for primitives. Now the terms are quite simple. Earth will provide 30% of its resources as an entry contribution. Human colonies will be limited to your home system until a probation period of 50 years has passed, and you will accept observer status in council meetings for the first 20 years. Captain Murphy frowned. That's not membership. That's servitude. Miller held up a hand to calm his captain. We understand the council has protocols, but 30% of our resources would cripple our economy, and observer status means we have no vote on matters that affect us directly. Zixtar's skin shifted to a bright orange. These are the standard terms for a species at your level. The council has been generous not to ask for 40%. For the next 3 hours, Miller tried every diplomatic approach he knew. He presented alternative proposals, offered compromises, and appealed to mutual benefit. Each suggestion was dismissed with increasing condescension. During a short break, Miller pulled his team aside in a private room. This isn't going anywhere, Murphy said, his face red with barely contained anger. They don't want partners, they want servants. Dr. Wright nodded. I've been analyzing their species interactions. The council has a strict hierarchy. Some members have barely more rights than we're being offered. Miller rubbed his temples. And I've noticed their ships. They've been moving into position around our solar system for weeks now. Strategic positions. You think they're planning to force compliance? Wright asked. I think they never expected us to agree. They're following a playbook they've used before. When they returned to the chamber, Miller noticed something new. A holographic display showed Earth surrounded by small dots that represented council observation posts. As the session resumed, Miller accessed a hidden file on his tablet. A junior council member had secretly shared it with him yesterday, a classification document that labeled humans as a resource species, Not equals, not even junior partners. Just another world to exploit. Zixtar was speaking again. We grow weary of this circular discussion. Earth must accept these terms within 30 days, or the Council will be forced to reconsider its position on Earth's independence. A small alien with translucent skin added, It's really for your own protection. Space is dangerous for primitive species. Another joined in. Your emotional responses make you unpredictable. This supervision is necessary. Miller looked at his team. Captain Murphy's jaw was clenched tight. Dr. Wright gave a small nod. Miller stood slowly. The room fell silent. The people of Earth thank you for your time, he said in a calm voice that betrayed none of his anger. After careful consideration of the terms and the spirit in which they've been presented, humanity respectfully withdraws from these negotiations. A moment of stunned silence followed, then erupted into sounds of confusion and surprise. Zixtar's skin cycled through several colors before settling on a confident blue. You misunderstand, Ambassador. These are not optional discussions. The Council has already decided Earth's status. Miller gathered his materials. Earth is not under Council jurisdiction. We came here as potential allies, not as subjects. Since alliance is not possible, we will chart our own path among the stars. This is not wise, hissed one of the Council members. Isolated species rarely survive long. Is that a threat? Captain Murphy asked sharply. Zixtar raised his four hands in a placating gesture. Merely an observation based on galactic history. The Council protects its members. Miller looked directly at him. And what does it do to non-members? No answer came. The silence was answer enough. We will depart immediately, Miller said. Please clear our ship for departure. As they walked out, a small council member whispered loudly enough to be heard. They'll be back begging for terms within a cycle. Primitive emotions always lead to primitive decisions. The human delegation returned to their ship in silence. Only when they were safely away from the station did Miller allow himself to slump in his chair. What now? Dr. Wright asked quietly. Now? Miller looked up at the stars through the viewport. Now we prepare. They think we left because we're emotional and weak. They don't understand what they've done. Captain Murphy set course for Earth. They've united humanity against a common threat. Miller nodded grimly. They've given us something the human race has lacked for its entire history. What's that? Wright asked. A reason to stop fighting each other and start working together, Miller replied. They'll understand too late what that means. As the USS Horizon accelerated toward home, the Council representatives celebrated what they saw as human submission. None of them noticed the small probes the humans had left behind, quietly gathering data on Council ships, weapons, and defenses. None of them understood that humanity hadn't given up. Humanity had just begun. 6 months had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council's negotiating table. 6 months of silence that the Council interpreted as defeat. But on Earth, those 6 months had been the most productive in human history. General, Karen Hall stood in the underground command center that had been built beneath the Rocky Mountains. Massive screens lined the walls, showing activity from similar facilities around the world. What would have once been impossible, Russians working, alongside Americans, Chinese scientists collaborating with European engineers, was now daily routine. Status report, she said to the room of officers and civilians. A young lieutenant stepped forward. Production facilities in Asia have reached 200% of projected output. The African shipyards report the first 5 vessels are ready for testing. South American defense grid is online. Hall nodded with satisfaction. The threat from the stars had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy could not. True global unity. Dr. Eric Bennett entered the command center, dark circles under his eyes, suggesting he hadn't slept in days. As Earth's leading physicist, he now headed Project Phoenix, the ambitious plan to leap ahead in technology. General, we've had a breakthrough, he said quietly. The propulsion system we reverse-engineered from the Council probe, we've improved. It Hall raised an eyebrow. Improved alien tech? How? They rely on efficiency and proven methods. We tried the crazy ideas they'd never consider. Bennett smiled for the first time in weeks. Our version is 40% faster and uses half the energy. On the other side of the galaxy, Sam Green blended into the crowded spaceport on Taurus Station. With altered skin pigmentation and subtle prosthetics, he passed for a member of the Keldari, a species known for their trading networks. 6 human intelligence operatives had been embedded in key locations throughout Council space, gathering information that could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Green slipped a data crystal to a contact, another disguised human, while pretending to haggle over goods. The crystal contained schematics of Council defense systems that would be invaluable to Earth's preparations. The Council grows impatient, his contact whispered. They've scheduled a formal visit to Earth next week to check on our progress. Green nodded. Then we're right on schedule. In the Grand Council chamber, the meeting was less formal than usual. Many representatives lounged in their seats, discussing Earth with amusement rather than concern. Has there been any communication from the humans? Asked Counselor Zixtar. A communications officer checked his display. None, Counselor. Complete silence since they left. As expected, rumbled a large reptilian counselor. They're likely still arguing among themselves about what to do. Primitive species always fracture under pressure. Only Counselor Vreenak, younger than most of her peers, showed any concern. Her species was known for their intuition, and something about the human silence bothered her. We should send observers more frequently, she suggested. Their lack of response is unusual. They're hiding in shame, laughed another counselor. We'll let them stew a bit longer, then offer them worse terms than before. They'll accept anything by now. Vreenak's tendrils twitched with doubt. The intelligence report shows unusual activity. Their satellite communications have decreased by 70%. Many of their military vessels have disappeared from their usual locations. Hiding, cowering, dismissed Zixtar. But very well, send a delegation to Earth. Let's see how our future resource world is progressing toward acceptance. Back on Earth, the first test of the new human fleet took place in the dark space beyond Neptune. Admiral Olivia Stone watched from the bridge of the UES Defiant as 20 ships performed maneuvers that would have been impossible 6 months ago. Shields at maximum, reported her tactical officer. Weapons systems operating at 115% of expected capacity. Stone nodded with pride. The Defiant had been a regular naval destroyer before. Now it incorporated alien principles with human innovation, creating something the Council had never seen. Begin the stealth test, she ordered. The ships activated their new cloaking systems, another technology the humans had not only copied but improved upon. On the tracking screens, the vessels disappeared completely. Not even our own sensors can detect them, marveled Stone. The Council won't know what hit them. Admiral, her communications officer interrupted. General Hall is requesting your presence at command. The Council has sent a message. They're coming to Earth. In the depths of the Martian caverns, engineer Maya Johnson made the final adjustments to the planetary shield generator. Similar installations had been hidden on Earth, the Moon, and key points throughout the solar system. Power test complete, she called to her team. If this works as designed, we could withstand bombardment from 100 Council dreadnoughts. One of her assistants looked up nervously. Do you think it will come to that? Johnson's face hardened. I hope not, but we'll be ready if it does. The Council delegation arrived with pomp and ceremony, their massive ship settling into orbit around Earth. They sent messages demanding the presence of human leadership, expecting immediate compliance. They received no response. Frustrated, they landed a shuttle outside the United Nations building in New York, only to find it empty. The diplomatic offices where they had first contacted humanity stood vacant. No protests greeted them. No military forces opposed them. No humans appeared at all. What is the meaning of this? Demanded the head of the delegation, his translator, broadcasting his words across the empty plaza. Where are the Earth representatives? Their scans showed human life signs in the city, but no one approached them. Shops were open, people walked the streets, but they simply ignored the aliens as if they didn't exist. Angered, the delegation returned to their ship and sent a direct message to all Earth communications systems. The Galactic Council demands immediate audience with Earth leadership. Failure to comply will be considered hostile action. In the command center, General Hall watched the message with Ambassador Miller, who had returned to Earth a hero after walking away from the Council. "Should we respond?" Hall asked. Miller smiled, coldly. "No. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Our fleet is in position," Hall confirmed. "Defense grids are active but concealed. The moment they make a threatening move—" "They won't," Miller said. "Not yet. They'll send a larger force first. That's when we show them what humanity has been doing during our silent months." Across the solar system, hidden shipyards and bases hummed with activity. Thousands of new vessels waited in stealth mode. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids tracked every move of the Council ship. The Council delegation departed after 3 days, confused and increasingly concerned. "The humans are gone," the lead delegate reported to the Council. "They've abandoned their diplomatic centers." "Impossible," Zixtar said. "Where would they go? They have no capability to leave their system." Councillor Vreenak's tendrils twitched more violently now. "Unless we severely underestimated them." The Council laughed. At her concern, they would not be laughing much longer. Grand Councillor Kuztul was not accustomed to problems he couldn't solve. As the supreme leader of the Galactic Council for over 40 years, he had guided the expansion of Council influence across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Yet now, he found himself troubled by reports from a backwater solar system and its unusual inhabitants. "You're certain of this?" he asked the nervous delegation leader, who had just returned from Earth. "Yes, Grand Councillor. The humans have abandoned their diplomatic centers. They ignored our presence completely." Krzatul's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought among his species. "This is unexpected. Send the diplomatic cruiser Righteous Authority with a full military escort. Make our presence impossible to ignore." 1 week later, a fleet of 30 Council vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. The massive ships dwarfed anything humans had previously built, their weapons capable of reducing cities to ash. The Righteous Authority led the formation, carrying a dozen high-ranking Council representatives. "Transmit on all frequencies," ordered the fleet commander. "Let the humans know the consequences of their disrespect." The message boomed across Earth's communication channels. "Attention, people of Earth. This is the Galactic Council diplomatic fleet. Your silence is interpreted as rejection of Council authority. You will present your leadership immediately or face disciplinary action." For several minutes there was no response. The Council ships moved closer to Earth, weapons systems powering up as a show of force. Then, without warning, sensors detected movement. From behind Earth's moon, from Mars, orbit from hidden positions near asteroids, ships appeared. Human ships, but unlike anything the Council had seen before. Admiral Olivia Stone sat calmly on the bridge of the UES Defiant, now the flagship of humanity's new fleet. 100 vessels moved into precise formation around her ship, each incorporating technology the Council would recognize but with modifications that would confuse their targeting systems. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Paul Ramirez, her tactical officer. His expertise in unconventional warfare had shaped the fleet's unusual battle strategy. "Open a channel," Stone ordered. "Visual." On the Council flagship, the commander was startled when a human woman in a crisp blue uniform appeared on his screen. "This is Admiral Olivia Stone of the United Earth Fleet. Your presence in our solar system with weapons active is considered a hostile act." The Council commander recovered quickly. "Your fleet is impressive for a primitive species, but you are outmatched. We have come to complete negotiations you abandoned. Grand Councillor Krzatul himself awaits your response." The image on the screen changed to show a larger alien with distinctive gold-flecked skin and multiple eyes. "People of Earth," Krzatul began in a tone of forced patience. Your absence from negotiations cannot be tolerated. The Council has designated your world for membership and resource contribution. Resistance will only result in hardship for your people. Admiral Stone's expression remained neutral. We understand completely, Grand Counselor. Allow us to demonstrate our response. She nodded to Ramirez, who pressed a sequence of controls. Without firing a single weapon, 10 human ships suddenly accelerated to speeds the Council had never recorded from such small vessels. They weaved through the Council formation in patterns that should have been impossible, coming within meters of the larger ships before changing direction instantly, without the expected deceleration. On the Council ships, alarms blared as targeting systems failed to lock onto the human vessels. The energy signatures didn't match any known configuration. Impossible, muttered the Council's science officer. They're manipulating gravitational fields in ways our technology can't explain. Admiral Stone's voice came through again. Phase 2. This time, a different group of human ships activated blue-white shields that rippled like water. From the largest Council vessel, a warning shot was fired, an energy beam that should have vaporized the smaller ship instantly. Instead, the beam hit the shield and dissipated completely. No damage registered. Phase 3, Stone commanded. Engineer, Maya Johnson, watching from a control center on Mars, activated her shield technology across all ships simultaneously. The human fleet glowed with protective fields that pulsed in synchronized patterns, creating a visual display of unity and power. On board the Righteous Authority, Grand Counselor Kuzatul felt something he had not experienced in decades: fear. Where did they get this technology? He demanded. Our reports indicated they were pre-interstellar. Unknown, Grand Counselor, the science officer replied, his hands trembling as he reviewed the data. But these aren't copies of Council technology. They've improved upon our designs, created new applications we never considered. Admiral Stone's face reappeared on their screens. Final demonstration. With perfect coordination, the human fleet moved into an attack formation. Small drones launched from each ship, swarming toward the Council vessels. Instead of explosions, the drones attached themselves to the hulls and emitted a signal that temporarily disabled weapon systems and engines. Within minutes, the entire Council fleet hung powerless in space. We could destroy your ships right now, Stone said calmly. But unlike the Council, we don't believe in unnecessary violence. Your life support and basic functions remain operational. Your weapons and engines will reactivate in exactly 6 hours, enough time for you to leave our solar system. Grand Counselor Kuzatul's voice had lost its commanding tone. How is this possible? You were negotiating for basic membership less than a year ago. You misunderstood us from the beginning, Stone replied. Humans don't respond well to threats or exploitation. When Ambassador Miller walked away from your table, it wasn't surrender. It was the beginning of our real response. Paul Ramirez added, You classified us as a resource species. We found that designation motivating. In the silence that followed, Stone delivered her final message. We tried diplomacy. You chose exploitation. We will now demonstrate why that was a mistake. You have 6 hours to leave. After that, any Council ship entering our system will be considered hostile. The transmission ended. On the Righteous Authority, chaos erupted as officials argued about how to respond to this unprecedented situation. We must return with a proper battle fleet, one commander insisted. Kuztul stared out at the human vessels, noting how they hovered in perfect formation, displaying discipline he had not expected. They disabled 30 of our ships without causing a single casualty, he said quietly. This was not a battle, it was a warning. 6 hours later, when systems returned to normal, the Council fleet retreated from the solar system. The human ships did not pursue but maintained their defensive positions. As the last Council ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Admiral Stone turned to her crew. Phase 1 complete. Now we prepare for their return. They won't underestimate us twice. Throughout the solar system, humans celebrated their first victory. But wiser heads like Stone knew this was just the beginning. The real test would come when the Council realized that humanity wasn't just defending its home, It was about to take the fight to them. The Council emergency session had been running for 3 days straight. Representatives from all 27 member species argued fiercely about how to respond to the human threat. The Grand Chamber, usually a model of order and procedure, had descended into chaos. "We must crush them immediately," shouted the military representative from the Krell Dominion, pounding his armored fist on the table. "Gather our combined fleets and reduce their planets to ash." "And risk losing more ships to their technology?" countered another. The humans disabled 30 vessels without firing a single shot. Grand Counselor Kuzutul watched the debate with growing concern. Reports from intelligence units were troubling. Human ships had been spotted far beyond their solar system. Supply lines in the outer territories had been disrupted. Communications relays were experiencing mysterious failures. Only Counselor Drasmore, who had always advocated for fair treatment of new species, appeared calm. The elderly alien had warned about underestimating humans from the beginning. "Perhaps," Drasmore suggested quietly, "we should consider opening genuine diplomatic channels. Offer them the equal membership we should have offered initially." His words were met with derision from many, but Kuzutul noted that some representatives nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, Director Nicole Baker sat in her office deep beneath Geneva, coordinating Earth's diplomatic intelligence campaign. Screens surrounding her displayed information from across the galaxy. As head of humanity's new interstellar intelligence agency, she had agents scattered throughout Council space. "Status report," she said to her team. "Operation Truth is proceeding." "As planned," replied her deputy. "We've broadcast evidence of Council corruption to 17 systems. The Proxima Cluster colonies are already in open rebellion against their Council overseers." Baker nodded with satisfaction. "And the Alliance efforts?" Kevin Walsh reports success with the Ardani Collective. They've agreed to mutual defense pacts. 3 other non-Council species are considering our proposals. This had been humanity's discovery after leaving the negotiating table. The Council was not beloved by all. Many species suffered under their rule, and others had rejected membership, rather than accept exploitation. Earth was quietly building a coalition of the discontented. In a distant system at the edge of Council space, Commander Susan Taylor led a team of Special Forces operators toward a Council military base. Their ships, small and nearly invisible to sensors, slipped past defensive perimeters with ease. "Remember the rules of engagement," Taylor reminded her team over the secure channel. "Disable, don't destroy. No casualties unless absolutely necessary." The human soldiers moved with precision born of intense training. Within hours, they had infiltrated the base's command center and security systems. Alarms were silenced before they could sound. Communications were cut. Weapons were disabled. The Council military personnel woke to find their base under complete human control. "This facility is now under Earth jurisdiction," Taylor announced over the internal speakers. "Your people will not be harmed. You will be provided transportation to the nearest Council world." Similar operations were happening simultaneously across a dozen systems. Council military outposts, supply depots, and communications hubs found themselves suddenly neutralized by small teams of humans using technology that seemed to predict and counter every defense. Back in Council space, the news spread quickly. Panic grew as reports flooded in from multiple sectors. The humans weren't just defending their territory, they were systematically dismantling the Council's military infrastructure without firing a shot. Grand Counselor Kuzutul received the May reports with growing dread. "How are they moving so quickly? How did they get past our defenses?" The military advisor had no answers. "Their technology, it's as if they can see through our security measures. They know our protocols, our weaknesses, because they studied us while we dismissed them," Counselor Drasmore pointed out. "They spent 6 months preparing while we congratulated ourselves on their supposed surrender." The situation deteriorated further when Earth publicly broadcast its terms for peace across all Council communication channels. The message, delivered by Kevin Walsh, was clear and firm. "People of the galaxy, Earth offers these terms for lasting peace. First, complete restructuring of the Galactic Council with equal rights for all species. Second, immediate liberation of all resource species from exploitation. Third, a new galactic constitution guaranteeing sovereignty and fair trade. We do not seek dominion, we seek justice. The broadcast included evidence of council corruption, secret agreements to exploit resource-rich worlds, population control measures on subjugated species, and private wealth accumulated by high-ranking officials. Information that human intelligence operatives had quietly gathered for months. The impact was immediate. On 12 council worlds, citizens took to the streets demanding answers from their leaders. 3 species announced they were reconsidering their council membership. Ancient rivalries between council members resurfaced as trust collapsed. The council leadership, desperate to regain control, authorized a major military offensive against Earth. A fleet of 100 capital ships gathered for what they called the final solution to the human problem. Director Baker received word of the fleet's preparation from her agents. "They're coming in force this time," she told Admiral Stone during their secure video conference. "This won't be a demonstration like before." Stone nodded grimly. "We're ready. Defense grid is fully operational. The new weapon systems have been installed across the fleet. Remember, we need to make a statement here," Baker replied. "The galaxy is watching how we respond." When the Council Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, they found the human fleet waiting, smaller in number but positioned with tactical precision. The Council commander opened communications. "Surrender now, or be destroyed. This is your only warning." Admiral Stone's reply was calm. "We will not surrender our freedom. We will not accept exploitation. If you proceed, we will defend ourselves." The Council fleet launched its attack, thousands of energy weapons firing simultaneously in a display of overwhelming force that would have annihilated most opponents. But the humans were ready. Their shields, based on Maya Johnson's revolutionary design, absorbed the massive energy assault. Then, instead of returning fire, the human fleet deployed their newest weapon. From each ship, golden pulses of energy spread outward, engulfing the Council vessels one by one. Systems failed, weapons went offline, and engines shut down. But life, support remained functioning. Within 20 minutes, the entire Council Armada hung powerless in space, their crews unharmed but unable to fight. Admiral Stone opened a channel to the defeated fleet. "Your ships will be fully operational again in 3 days. Enough time for you to consider that we could have destroyed you, but chose not to. Earth doesn't want war. We want reform." As rescue ships arrived to assist the stranded Council vessels, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. The story was always the same. The humans had defeated the largest Council fleet ever assembled without a single casualty on either side. For many watching species, the contrast was clear. The Council used fear and force to rule. The humans used power with restraint and purpose. The balance of the galaxy had begun to shift. 1 year had passed since humanity had abandoned the negotiating table. 1 year that had changed the galaxy forever. President Laura Chen stood on the platform in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Hall on neutral territory, a space station, built jointly by humans and former Council species. Representatives from 42 spacefaring civilizations filled the chamber, many experiencing true equality for the first time. "Today marks not an ending, but a beginning," President Chen said, her voice carrying across the silent hall. "The Galactic Assembly replaces the old Council not as conquerors, but as partners. Every world, regardless of technological development, holds one vote. Every voice matters." Ambassador Jack Miller watched from nearby with quiet satisfaction. The journey that began with his walkout from Council negotiations had come full circle. Now he served as the lead architect of the new Galactic Constitution. "The document before you," Chen continued, "guarantees the rights of all sentient beings. It forbids the exploitation of worlds as mere resources. It establishes fair trade practices and mutual defense. And it was written not by one species, but by representatives from all member worlds, In the audience, Grand Emissary HFY shifted uncomfortably. Once the Council's chief enforcer, he now represented the reformed remnants of the old order. Most former Council species had joined the new assembly, recognizing that the tide of galactic opinion had turned against their old ways. On behalf of the former Council worlds, HFY said when it was his turn to speak, I formally apologize for our arrogance and exploitation. We mistook military power for civilization. We confused domination with progress. He turned toward the human delegation, and we gravely underestimated humanity's capacity for both innovation and compassion. Dr. Lisa Wright, who had been present at those first failed negotiations, now headed the Assembly's cultural exchange program. Her team of xenobiologists and diplomats worked to foster genuine understanding between species that had once been separated by Council hierarchy. The program has already established educational exchanges between 30 worlds, she reported to the Assembly. We're discovering that despite our physical differences, many of our values are shared across species. Not all had embraced the new order. A faction of hardline Council military leaders had refused to accept the changes. They had gathered their remaining forces in a distant system, vowing to restore the Council's dominance. Their desperate attack came during the Assembly's inaugural session. 12 battleships emerged from faster-than-light travel and launched weapons toward the station, hoping to eliminate the new government in one strike. They never reached their target. The Assembly's Joint Defense Fleet, commanded by Admiral Stone but staffed by officers from 20 species, intercepted the attackers. The battle lasted less than 15 minutes. When it ended, the hardliners' ships were disabled but intact, their crews taken into custody without casualties. President Chen barely paused her address during the brief conflict. When informed that the threat had been neutralized, she simply nodded and continued outlining the Assembly's humanitarian initiatives. That response, more than anything, demonstrated how much had changed. The attack that had been meant to destroy, the new order instead showed its strength and resilience. Later that day, Miller found himself standing beside Councillor Drasmore, who had been one of the few Council members to advocate for treating humans fairly from the beginning. I knew your species was different, the elderly alien said, his voice raspy with age. But even I didn't foresee this outcome. Miller smiled. What outcome did you expect? When a species discovers they've been marked for exploitation and develops the power to fight back, they typically seek revenge, Drasmore replied. History is full of oppressed species becoming oppressors when given the chance. Instead, you built something new. We had examples of that cycle in our own history, Miller explained. Nations rising to power through conquest, only to face the same fate generations later. We learned that breaking the cycle requires something more difficult than victory. What's that? Asked Drasmore. Restraint, justice instead of vengeance, building instead of destroying. Across the station, in the new Technology Exchange Center, engineer Maya Johnson worked alongside scientists from former Council worlds. Her shield technology, once used to protect Earth's fleet, was being adapted to create sustainable energy systems for developing worlds. The efficiency is remarkable, said a blue-skinned physicist as they reviewed the test results. This will help dozens of colonies achieve energy independence. Johnson nodded. That was always the goal. Defense was just the first application. Creation is more important than destruction. In the center of the station, a massive project was underway, a joint scientific venture involving thousands of scientists from all member worlds. What had begun as military research was being transformed into a galactic benefit. Kevin Walsh, who had helped build the coalition that supported Earth during the conflict, now coordinated this unprecedented collaboration. Every species brings unique perspectives, he explained to visiting dignitaries. Problems that stumped Council scientists for centuries are being solved by combined teams. On Earth, children looked up at the night sky with new understanding. Schools taught not just human history, but galactic history. Trade ships from distant worlds brought new ideas, art, and knowledge. Humanity had not just found its place among the stars, it had helped reshape the very nature of interstellar society. In a quiet moment during the celebration, President Chen found herself alone with Grand Emissary HFY. There's still something, I don't understand, the former council enforcer admitted. When your Ambassador Miller walked away from our table, we truly believed you had surrendered. We thought you were weak. Why didn't you try to convince us otherwise? Chen smiled. Sometimes, the most powerful statement is silence. You classified us as primitive because we express emotions you considered weaknesses: compassion, indignation at injustice, unity in the face of threats. But those traits you dismissed became our greatest strengths. The Council's mistake wasn't just underestimating your technology, Kazavok realized. It was misunderstanding your nature. Yes, Chen agreed. And by the time you understood what humanity's withdrawal from negotiations truly meant, it was already too late. As the celebration continued around them, Dr. Wright joined a group of young diplomats from a dozen worlds. They were discussing the foundations of the new order that would guide the galaxy forward. The most important lesson, Wright told them, is that true strength never comes from domination. It comes from cooperation, from seeing differences as advantages rather than threats, from lifting others up rather than pushing them down. One young alien asked, "Is that a human philosophy?" Wright smiled. "It's a hard-won human understanding, one we nearly failed to learn ourselves many times, but when we finally did, it changed everything." Above them, through the station's transparent dome, the stars shone, no longer distant and unreachable, but connected by new bonds of mutual respect and shared purpose. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not by conquering it but by transforming it.